from the time she was little. I could have figured this out because she would always walk up to me and I would grab her and hug her and I'd say, I need you to charge my battery.
Aww.
And she would give me the longest, biggest bear hug. And it kind of became our thing of I just need my battery charged. Just hug me.
Aww.
And she loves that. And she still does it today as an adult child.
Without Fear of Her Future podcast is for women who are passionately pursuing financial freedom using multiple streams of income and real estate to accomplish their goals. We're here to empower you to be brave, dream big, and design a life that you love that inspires others to do the same. I'm your co-host, Teresa Todd, founder of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and author of the book, Without Fear of Her Future.
And I'm Melissa Baker, a real estate investor and fitness coach specializing in turning properties from drab to fab. I'm here to help motivate and inspire you to build your dream life because, girl, you deserve it. Welcome to the Without Fear of Her Future podcast. Today, we are diving into the fascinating realm of love languages and how they influence our connections with others. Love languages, popularized by Dr. Gary Chapman, aren't just about romantic relationships. They extend to every facet of our lives, from our interactions with coworkers to the bonds we share with our kids and friends. In this episode, we'll explore the significance of understanding and applying love languages in diverse relationships. Join us as we uncover heartwarming stories, practical tips, and the transformative power of expressing love in a language that truly resonates with those around us. Get ready for a journey that promises to deepen your connections and make your relationships flourish. Let's dive in. Teresa.
I love this. I remember when I first read the Love Language book by Gary Chapman.
So let's start with talking about those for our listeners who haven't or aren't familiar with the book. Let's talk about the 5 languages so that they do know what we're talking about.
Absolutely. You want to get the book. Get on Amazon. Get the book. Again, it's called the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. But yeah, so let's see. There's 5 different love language. One is gift giving.
Yes.
So some people really feel loved by receiving gifts.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be lavish. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just says to them, hey, while you were out, you thought about me.
Yeah. 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 Another one, quality time. This is my love language.
Okay.
Is quality time. I love, when people want to spend time with me or me being able to give my time as well, kind of gives that warm, fuzzy feeling. So quality time is the next one.
Okay. And then, to be honest, this is the most difficult one to show. It's acts of service.
I agree with you. That one is a hard one for me too.
Yeah. So some people feel loved by when you're doing something for them. So a lot of women feel loved if their husband is doing the dishes for them, or, maybe gives the kids a bath before putting them to bed. That makes them feel loved. And for me, again, I think it's just because I'm not, to be honest, Melissa, I'm just not very thoughtful in that area, and I'm going 90 to nothing. And I don't think about how I could stop and do an act of service to show someone love. Yeah. So I would be in trouble if that was my spouse's love language.
Yeah, I hear you. That is my spouse's love language. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
Okay.
The next one, words of affirmation. Now, this one I know is yours.
Yes, I love words of affirmation. And that can be as simple as, obviously, I love you, or thank you, or just in expressing words.
Hey, beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. And that is exactly it. So one of the things that we've learned is that we typically, whatever our love language is, that comes really natural for us. And so I love words of affirmation, and I freely give words of affirmation. I don't even think about it. But like you just said, hello, beautiful. That's how I open up everything that, when I see one of my granddaughters walk into the room, hello, beautiful. Hello, gorgeous. I love to tell people how, I love your outfit. I love all the things. If I see it and I like it, I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
So that one's easy for me because obviously that is my love language.
Yeah. Yeah. The 5th one is physical touch.
Physical touch. Yeah. And this is literally, first of all, this is the majority of men's Not all, but this is the majority of men's love language.
And it doesn't have to be sexual.
Absolutely.
Just to put that out there. Physical touch could just be a hug. Sometimes
Holding
it's a handshake. Holding hands.
Yeah. And that's probably, I don't know, physical touch and or quality time are probably, I don't know, hand in hand for number two, because I am also a hugger. I love to pat people and, yeah. And again, I think about my kids and my grandkids, especially. I'm always like just touching them in some kind of a way.
Yeah. Physical touch would be my second after the quality time.
Okay. Yeah. So there they are. Let's say them again. Gifts, quality time,
acts of service,
words of affirmation,
and then physical touch.
So those are the 5. And if you don't know what your love languages are, again, I think it's so worth the time to read the book. It's super simple. Not only do you want to know your love language so that you understand what makes you feel loved, but you also want to know the people that you love the most, your kiddos, your spouse, you want to know what their love language is so you can speak to them, because this is, again, we tend to give what we like.
Right.
And so I could give, if someone is not, words of affirmation doesn't mean anything to them. I can tell them how great they are all of the time, but it doesn't mean that much to them.
Right.
If their gifts is acts of service, they're like, quit telling me how great I am and go do the dishes.
That's so true. So true.
Okay. So we're going to, first of all, talk about kind of with our significant other. I don't have a significant other, so I'm going to ask you these questions.
Okay.
Melissa. How has understanding your husband's love language improved your relationship with him?
Well, I think just being able to, obviously I love him in every way and in many ways, but knowing his love language is acts of service. And that to me, like you said earlier, that's a hard one because I try to think of the things that I can do for him that would actually mean something to him. And it's interesting because I have to get creative because there's some things that I just can't do for him that he has to do. But, we were both single for a long time before we met and married. And so he was used to doing the dishes himself and doing his laundry and doing all the household chores. So when I do those things, it does speak to him because it's something he's not having to do anymore.
Yeah.
Little things that I can do for him. He's from London. He drinks hot tea all day long. And so I make sure that if he's sitting down and relaxing, that I'm offering him tea, and not to just try to serve him as my husband, but to make him feel loved, for him to know that I'm attentive to him and I'm loving him. So
I love that.
I have to seek out those.
Yeah. You have to really think about, what would make him feel loved?
Exactly.
Yeah. What act of service?
And but in return, he knows that mine is time. And, it's silly, but one thing that I look forward to is in the evening when he is home, sitting on the couch. We could be watching a meaningless television show or doing nothing. But as long as we're sitting there together, I love that time together.
Quality time. Quality time. Yeah. So what is, now I know you just said doesn't matter, just watching TV or whatever, but like describe what a quality time would mean versus just time.
Yeah. So when he's home, he is, has a lot of projects that he works on when he's home. And so, we give each other our space to do our own things, but there's a time when we come together, like and that's not every evening, but the evenings that we can have time, he's out of town a lot. So we have to make dates. We have to make time for each other because we both have busy schedules like a lot of families do. And we are now empty nesters. So that's one aspect of our lives that we're not having to deal with every day as the kids. So now we are making our dates a little more frequent, which is great. Yeah. Whether it's just a quick brunch outing on the weekend. Yes. I love those. I love just, going and grabbing a quick little bite to eat with him. Or, dinner here or lunch there. Yeah.
Hanging out and just spending some quality time together. I love it. I love it. All right. So have there been moments when you realize that that Rob's love language is obviously different than yours and you had to figure out how to navigate that?
So a really funny story. So just to give a little background of this, because a lot of our listeners may not know this, we've been married for a little over 9 years. The first 8 years of our marriage, we lived in 2 homes. He had a home in Grapevine. I had a home in Frisco. So we would spend most evenings when he was in town together at the Frisco home. We made that our family home.
Because how far away are those?
They're about 35 minutes without traffic. Yeah. So not a terrible distance, but we didn't live in the same house. He would pack a bag and come to Frisco most nights. And on weekends when I didn't have my girls or my girls had other activities, I would pack a bag and go to Grapevine. And we made that work for 8 years. So I moved in with him a year ago when my youngest daughter graduated in May. We got her off to college in August. September, I finally moved into the Grapevine house with him full time. And one thing is, in the Grapevine house for the past 8 years at the time, he had the same bedding on the bed. It was this awful, I thought it was awful dark. It was back when all the really deep colors were popular, the deep greens and blues and burgundies and dark. So he just had a comforter, and I don't think he cared, on the bed that he had used. And so when I moved in, I decided I was going to redo the bedroom and make it ours. And so I went out and I bought this beautiful white bedding and, brand new sheets and pillows and the decorative pillow shams and all of the things. And he was out of town. And so I did it all and got it all set up, and the bed was beautiful. And I was so excited to show it to him. And he got home and plopped his luggage on the bed and never even noticed that there was a new comforter. So gifts is not his thing.
Not his
and
thing.
I mean, I wasn't offended at it. I find it funny now.
Yeah.
And he late after I pointed it out to him, he realized that I did go to a lot of work to do that for him. But it made me realize that those things that mean something to me might not mean as much to him,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So we have to understand when we're doing something for ourselves versus really doing it
exactly.
Okay. So what advice would you give to couples looking to discover and nurture each other's love language?
Well, I think to read the book and to learn each other's, and then to talk about ways that you can speak each other's love language. Because it's like you said, if mine is quality time. So if I want to give my time to someone whose love language is not that, my time might not mean anything to them when I'm trying to love them. So to know how to love someone, and then, we have to go out of our way to love in someone else's love language, because it's not our natural way to love. My natural way to love is to give you my time or to touch and hug and feel on you.
Yeah.
And that's not, always everybody's. And so, learning those acts of service, the words of affirmation, it's like you said, you tell everybody these things, and you realize that doesn't always mean the same to someone else.
Absolutely.
So I think for you to learn your spouses, it also makes it a little challenging, which is kind of fun. I love to challenge myself to find new ways to express that love.
I love something you just said. It's so good to talk about it together, and kind of discover it, because most people, if they haven't read the book, they don't have a clue that they even have a love language.
Right.
And so when you open up that topic, it's like now, I do love it when you say this or when you do that. Yeah. And it just makes it easier to even say, hey, after reading the book, what 3 things that I could do for you on a regular basis that would make you feel loved?
Yeah. And for someone who, like you said, a lot of men, physical touch is there's, I'm thinking of my husband doing things at home, just going up behind him and rubbing his back a little. Yep. Just giving him a hug. Like those things can just mean so much.
Absolutely.
If that's their love language.
Yeah.
So I know you don't have a spouse, so that is not something you're dealing with right now, but you're in a work environment. You've got a lot of people that work for you, work with you. You have a lot of professional relationships. So let's talk about love languages from the professional relationship standpoint, and how can identifying those love languages help you in your teamwork and your collaboration with what you do with your teams?
That's a great question. I think that it's obviously a little more difficult to know your team's love languages. So I think you have to pick up on things. And
how do you do that?
I think the number one way is to watch what they do, because usually the things that they are doing for other people are the things that they would love. So if I have certain team members that will always bring me a gift. I mean, maybe it's a candle or something like that. Always remembering, that I love tea from Starbucks, and they just bring, so picking up on that. Or if somebody's constantly complimenting you or telling you, then theirs is probably words of affirmation. If somebody's doing something for you on a regular basis, then that's probably telling you that theirs is acts of service. So I think you have to be really pay attention to what other people are doing is a telltale sign that that's probably their love language. So just picking that up, and then taking the time. So, I don't get to spend a lot of quality time for sure with my team, but we do, so here's the deal is I think that we have to, in my situation, is I have to do a lot of blanket stuff. And so one of the things that we do is a few times a year, we will have a retreat of some sort. So everybody can come out. And so you're trying to give quality time with each other, create that quality time. It would also be an act of service. And so there are some people that are going to thrive. That's going to mean the world to them. And like, oh my gosh, that was so awesome. I don't know, I've never worked for a company. I've heard people, I've never worked for a company that does that. For other people, they're not even going to show up to that thing, or it just, they may go, but it doesn't mean that much to them. Whenever we have our company meetings, I love to tell my team how important they are to me, because that's my gift. And I mean that. I literally wish that I could look every single one of them in the eye and say, do you really understand that, how important you are to this team? We can't do this without you. Mm-hmm. You are important. So, and I think that, so I try to be very, very good about expressing. That would be, obviously, words of affirmation. You probably shouldn't practice too much physical touch in
the professional. You have to be careful with that one.
But I still am a toucher and a patter and a hugger. My mother always, I always think of her when I think of that, because she always expressed love in that way. And so I find myself, doing that. And, I worked in the medical field for 25 years with elderly patients. And I always I tried to touch almost every single patient of mine, whatever that was, just with your putting your hand on their arm, or because some of those people, that's the only physical touch they ever get. Yeah. And it means so much to them. And so from being raised with a mom that was always a very physical touch, and then trying to do that with patients, I find myself just being a touchy, pat kind of thing. So yeah, I think that in the workspace, it is a little more difficult, but I do think that it's important to do the best that you can to express in several languages. Because it's going to mean, one of the things that you do is going to mean something to somebody and nothing to someone else. Right. So you have to try to practice as many of them as you can.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. Have you ever had an instance where miscommunication or maybe a problem or an issue was resolved because you knew someone's love language and you were able to speak to them in that way?
Yes. So I will never forget, one of the things that I kept doing is giving one of my team, this is when we were very, very, very small, I would always bring her back gifts from wherever, if I went. And literally, she told me one time, I'm trying to think of how she said it. But in other words, she was like, I don't care a thing about these gifts. It just didn't. And she just wanted me to know. She was like, you don't have to keep bringing me things. And so I'll never forget that. And immediately I asked her, I said, okay, I appreciate you. What can I do? And what I learned, she didn't know. She didn't know the level, and she didn't really know. But what I did learn from paying attention, and that was a very eye-opening conversation, is that it was acts of service. Oh. And so I literally had to really think of ways to do that. So yeah, so then you know what to do. So to answer your question, she loved pie. And so on a special occasion, or just whenever I could go out and buy a pie, and her reaction to me bringing pie was just crazy. You would have thought I had given her $1 million. And so it was just fun to watch. Well, then you want to give pie more often. It's like pie for everyone.
Even though she knew you didn't bake the pie.
Even though, she didn't care. She didn't care. Yeah. And I didn't bake the pie. That would not have been a gift. But yeah, I think, learning that, sensing that, and especially even when someone is going through a difficult time, or struggling with something, I think that is when we all appreciate somebody speaking to us in our love language more than ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong in a professional setting, especially when you've got a team like yours. It's pretty well connected and they spend a lot of time together. Even just asking those questions of what their love languages is to figure it out so that people know, your coworkers.
One of the things that I see in my team a lot is, there's certain departments and you can see that some of them are really close and you do see them really celebrating one another and honoring one another. And that makes me happy when I see that. Because they work, much closer together. Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit for our kids. I did not know about the love languages. I learned about this much later in life. But understanding our kiddos' love language, for me, I think that could have been a game changer had I known that.
I'm with you on that. My girls are now 19 and 21, and I didn't know theirs because I didn't know about the love languages when they were little. Of course, I tend to, as I think about it, think that gifts would have been any kid's love language at first, right? Because kids just love gifts and surprises. But as they've gotten older as adult children, my oldest daughter, hers is quality time. Okay. And I love that because I'm able now, she's grown, she lives about 30 minutes from me. And so I make time to go visit her, to make lunch dates, to, do things that are going to be important to her. My younger daughter, hers is physical touch. She's a cuddler, a little love bug. And so I used to grab her, not even as an adult. I probably knew about their love languages, I would say in their teenage years.
Okay.
But from the time she was little, I could have figured this out because she would always walk up to me and I would grab her and hug her. And I'd say, I need you to charge my battery. Aww. And she would give me the longest, biggest bear hug. And it kind of became our thing of, I just need my battery charged. Just hug me. Aww. And she loves that. And she still does it today as an adult child.
I love that. I love that.
So what about you? Your boys, do you know theirs?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I think boys are a little bit harder.
Oh, yeah.
But I do know that two of them definitely are words of affirmation, just like me. So that one's super easy. And so not only do I love to say it, but I can text them, and I know that that's going to mean something because I know, how I love that. And the other one is definitely acts of service. Don't tell me how much you love me. Do something. Take some of this stuff off my plate. Do something for me, And so, yes, that one's a little harder to
Now, the one that is acts of service, do you see him doing acts of service for you to try to show you his love for you?
Yeah, that's a good, he is very much so. I have not ever thought about that. You just asked the question, but yes, not only me, but other people. He is going to, especially the people that he loves, he's going to think about what he could do for them.
Yeah.
And he does that.
Yeah. So, So if you've got kids, there's even a 5 love languages for kids book, I believe. Yeah. So if you've got young kids and you haven't read the book, that's a great one to get.
Absolutely.
I think that would have been so great to have had that when my girls were little.
Yeah. But I think, especially in this day and age when kiddos are there's so much insecurity and anxiety. And if we can figure out what makes them feel loved and just like you said, charge that love battery and keep it filled up, they're going to go into the world a little more confident and secure. So I think it's so important.
Absolutely. So let's talk about friendships because friendships can also benefit from love language awareness. Let's just talk about this and give some examples of times when knowing some of your friends' love languages played a part to help maybe strengthen your bond or to get through a conflict or just, a time when maybe they needed to feel loved.
Yeah. Well, I have one friend that I picked up on, and I've been friends with her for years, and I never realized this until about a year ago, is that she's always asking me in awe, she means this, what can I do for you? I know you're so busy. What can I do for you? Is there any, and like if she comes and she'll, come and stay the weekend with me, she will literally say, hey, this doesn't have to be about play. We don't have to do anything fun, but I will help you. What can I do for you? And of course, that's so sweet and so thoughtful. But what that tells me is her gift is acts of service.
Right.
And so that makes me know that's what I need to be doing for her, is giving her acts of service. And then another one you and I were just discussing is that I have another friend that she's often bringing really wonderful gifts, very thoughtful gifts. Everybody knows I love pink. So, she's brought me, pink gifts, something that's, and so, yeah. And so I know that just not too long ago, she was going through something and I was like, oh, and it was just something simple. Again, gifts don't have to be elaborate, but I was like, oh, I just saw this thing. I was like, that would mean something to her.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. What about you?
So one of my very best friends, her love language would be the words of affirmation. I know that's yours as well. I have another great friend. And I do notice that with her too, is that she's often giving those compliments and saying such sweet, sweet things. And she knows that mine is time. And so we have to make it a point to make those dates together. She's very busy. She's still raising kids, has kids at home. And so we have to make the time, but she's good about going out of her way to make the time, when it becomes that important. And she knows that, especially if I'm needing some love, we all have those moments.
Absolutely.
I do see her go out of her way to make that time for me.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well,
why do you think, that it's crucial for individuals to recognize and respect the love languages of those that they interact with, and that they, in all our areas of life, whether it's our children, our spouse, our coworkers, our friends?
I think that right now in our time, we live in a hard world, a mean world, really and truly. And I think it's crucial that we show love to as many of the people that we love them. So let's learn their love language, and I think it's going to make a happier world. It's going to make us all feel, because here's the deal. When we feel loved, we have more confidence. We have more joy. We have more hope. I think we're more courageous. When you're missing that, when you are not filled up, I think in the book they call it the love tank. I may be getting two books mixed up, but
I've heard that. Yeah.
Okay. And when your tank is empty, well, then you're also empty of joy. You're empty of peace. You're empty of courage, really. So the more that we can love the people that we love and show them that love in their love language, I think it's going to make their life better. And it's also going to, and listen, it's better to give than to receive. So not only does it make them feel better, but it also makes you feel better when you see somebody's face light up because of whatever it is that you gave them that they needed.
Well, and it's like with mine being quality time, I do find that when I give my time for something, whether it's to a friend or a volunteer opportunity where I'm helping someone, that it fills my love tank. Yeah. That battery of mine, it fills you up, and so that is to love in your love language, even if it's not someone else's, can also fill you up.
Absolutely.
So I think if you haven't read the book, definitely look into it, because this is such a, it's like you said, the world is a hard place sometimes. And if this is something that we can do to make a difference to the ones we love, then it's totally worth it to learn their love language, just go out of our way to make them feel loved. Yeah.
So that's our challenge today is know your love language. Know your, the people that are significant to you, that you really care about. Know their love languages, and then practice giving a little love.
Yeah.
Well, if you have not subscribed to the Without Fear of Her Future podcast, then hit that subscribe button today for new episode reminders.
Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and Teresa Todd, I'm Melissa Baker, encouraging you to be brave and dream big.